All top Shottas are back. Listen, I really miss y'all. Like, legit, I really miss y'all. It's almost as if, we're in the same room having a conversation. It's been a minute. I tired of coming on here and saying it's been a minute, but this is new for me. A lot of growing pains, but nevertheless, the girl is back. Super excited to be in your company. Super excited to have this conversation. But before we dive in, I just kind of wanted to, and it's weird because I was going to say I wanted to check in, but y'all can't really talk to me unless y'all do it in the comments. And by the way, thank you to everybody as always that reaches out and it's like, listen, where's the next episode? What's going on with you? Like, I really missed the pod. It's really encouraging to me in more ways than you guys could even understand. Just to know that this has value. And I say it over and over and over again, no matter how many, downloads we get, how many views we get. It's still always like, girl, did you really start a podcast? And people actually listen to you from so many different countries. It's wild. So much has happened since we last spoke. Y'all have gotten the pod to 500 downloads in just 3 episodes. I check Buzzsprout stats. That's pretty cool. Grateful for that. Your girls turned 30, y'all. I turned 30. Woo! I turned 30. So that was a big deal for me. I don't know. I didn't have any expectation as to what that was going to look like. And I know in previous episodes we'd spoken about like how do persons feel when they turn 30. What are the expectations? Where are the highs and lows? I will say though, around that weekend I was a bit emotional. I was like, oh my God, I'm turning 30. Wow. I think it was more so about me having plans to do certain things and not being able to do them last minute because I had some life changes early on in the year and it was like, okay, if you're going to do this, you're going to have to sacrifice one or two things, and a birthday trip that I had previously planned was one of those sacrifices. Personally, I think it was well worth it. I don't regret my life, the major change that I had or did at all. And I'm not being evasive intentionally, but that's something we're going to talk about for a whole episode. And I won't be alone with that. So yeah, I'm gonna have someone chime in on that conversation with me. So y'all stay tuned. But yeah, it's just, that's been one of the main things. Turning 30. It's so weird. Like, let's talk. So prior to turning to what's going on with me today? Prior to turning 30, that's all them T's. I didn't really have expectations for 30 other than I was going to truly enjoy my moment, enjoy me turning 30. I was so excited. Like, all of my friends, I was telling them, I was like, listen, your girl's on 30, your girl's on 30. You know, I almost 30 now. Being that dramatic. But that was the tip that I was on. And when the time came closer, it was like, bruh, you almost 30 for real. And I must say that I don't know. I don't know if I have the right emotions and the right terminology yet to explain how I feel about entering into my 30s. But I would say that there's been this sense of I'm not doing what I used to do, right? And I found that I spent a lot of my 20s, especially my latter 20s, just worrying about so much different stuff, worrying about my career, worrying about my finances, worrying about health, worrying about so many different things, worrying about the future primarily. And now that even before I turned 30, like 2 months before, I just was like, oh my gosh, you're going to keep doing this? Is this going to forever be a cycle? Is this going to forever be the way that you look at your life and over obsess about your life, about what will happen, what won't happen? And it's like, bruh. And I've been having a conversation with a lot of my friends and I'm like, listen, worrying changes nothing. Like, there's nothing that you've been able to do or achieve by worrying about it. Like, it's either you do it or you don't do it. It's either it happens or it doesn't happen. You worrying didn't make any difference. It's either you work towards the thing and do it, or you just stop over obsessing, stop freaking yourself out. Like, it was taken away from my now, my present. And so I think that I've been way more proactive within this month of being 30. I think in 2 days, it would be 30 for a whole month. Auntie getting old. Side note, I was talking to my friend and I was like, listen, I need to go to sleep. Auntie getting old. And he was like, bruh, could you please not refer to yourself as auntie? Like, you killing me. So we need to talk about that. When does that auntie era start? Because I also referred to Sarah Jakes as auntie, and my friend was like, she's not auntie. She's like only 30 something. I'm like, so when does an auntie start? But anyway, that's a conversation for another day. But yeah, so those are the major updates for me. Like I said, I don't really have the language yet to talk about what 30 feels like. I do have great expectation because your girl worked hard in my 20s. I believe that this is harvest season for me. I truly stand on that. I'm also trying to do less, like literally just do less. Like I ain't over showing up. I ain't trying to figure out things that are beyond the scope for me. I'm not trying to people please. I never really used to do that anyhow, but I'm just more so focused on not overexerting myself in different ways. Like I'm just not doing that. I am not doing that at all. And so I feel happy about that. I feel happy about that decision, the conscious effort being made to not overdo, to do just enough to get by, and to be okay with what I do. You know what I mean? Like I just feel like I'm such an overachiever. I'm always on 100 and I'm like, nah, I want to change the pace in which I've done life. I have to. Like I can't continue on that high exertion all the time and expect to still be healthy, to expect to still be experiencing peace. Because honestly, when you overexert yourself, is usually because you're working so hard towards something to the point where you feel as if it's out of your control. And I think that could be very debilitating, and I don't want to do it anymore. So yeah, I'm just enjoying this new pace of 30. I called it blooming into 30s. And that's another thing. Can we talk about the fact that I had a whole photo shoot planned, and none of the outfits that I ordered arrived? Can we talk about that? Yeah, got my hair did. Y'all like this color on me, by the way. And if y'all listening on the on a podcast app, y'all should chime in on YouTube. Everybody tells me that has told me that blonde is really that girl for me. It's growing on me. I think I like it. I think I say it for real, but I just yeah. So yeah, that was just an update. I would love to hear like how y'all doing. I feel like y'all could always message me if you care to do so. I have conversations with some of the persons that reach out about the podcast all the time, and I love to hear how when I talked about a particular thing, how relatable it was to them. So I'm all for that. Don't ever feel as if I'm unapproachable. Those of you that are listening in different countries, I would love to hear about how you could relate to what I'm saying as well. So yeah, thank you all for tuning in still. And let's get into the nitty gritty of today. So what are we talking about today? Stewarding well. What does that mean? What am I talking about? We can get into that. So let me just explain on a backtrack like how I got to this point. So I'm going to tell y'all when we get to that particular portion exactly what how the concept became real to me about stewarding. But one of the things that I want to be intentional about is how I use everything that's been given to me. We've spoken about the purpose by which we've been created, the purpose why we're on earth. And in order for us to fulfill our God-given purpose, there are certain things that's been woven in us in our creation, right? Each of us different. And one of the things that I am growing in my understanding of are my talents, the things that have been gifted to me, and realizing that those things are gifts. Y'all ever talk or had a conversation with someone, right? And this is with all humility and no shade. As I get older, because it's 30 now. As I get older, I just look at some people and I just be like, bro, how come you don't understand it? Like, how come this ain't common sense to you? Or like, especially when I engage in conversation about like what I think to be bare bones stuff about finances, about communication styles, about like just stuff that I feel like after a while you're supposed to get. And I realize that honestly, wisdom is a gift. Like literally, I believe it's a gift. I think all of us have been given an amount of wisdom, but I would say, coupled with your environment, you're brought up, I just believe some of us are given a greater level of wisdom and understanding in how we treat with things. And aside from that, there are other things that I realize are God-given, meaning, like I said, in our creation, these are things that we were born with, and they were not given to us off air. Some people have the gift of singing. I don't really have that. I could carry a note and I can be a part of a choir, but don't give me nothing to lead. Things mash up, especially in a worship service. Everybody just, yeah, don't mess with that. That ain't my strength. But other people have that gift. Other people have the gift of simple as making people feel welcome. Y'all ever been around people where it doesn't matter where we are, it doesn't matter what we're doing, but they just always make you feel loved and welcome and fuzzy inside? Like I again, as I grow in my understanding of people and things and environments, I do realize that there is a separation in how certain people handle particular things. And I don't believe that that's off our own merit, but that it's aligned with what God has called us to. And aside from our gifts, I also don't think that we understand the value behind a lot of things that we've been given outside of our innate gifts and talents. One of those things for me would be time. I tell people all the time, time is, if not the greatest asset, it high up there for me especially. And one of the ways that I realized that, so y'all know by now I'm an attorney, and in litigation, one of the things that you have to do all the time is billable hours. And what billable hours is, and I think I may have explained this before, literally if I send an email, I have to bill for that. And as an attorney, in your seniority, the more years that you've been called to the bar, you grow in seniority and you also grow in your billable hour rate. So I would have started off at $250 per hour, and you increase. Like I said, based on your seniority. I had partners who I worked under whose billable rates exceeded like $700. I had like the senior partners whose billable hours were upwards of $1,000 an hour. And when I found that out, let me tell you how this was moving. God is humble you quick now. But anyway, let me just tell you how this was moving. So if someone was arguing with me, just me being transparent now. I don't look at me funny, but this is what I was doing for true. If I had gotten in an argument with something, or I felt like something I was doing, a person wasn't valuing my time, I'd be like, listen to me, you know what my billable hour is? First of all, I ain't riding with you for free. Literally, if I go to court and we spend 3 hours in court, my billable hours would be, and on top of that, court rates are higher than your regular billable rates. Let me just put y'all on game right now. So let me just tell y'all how, to put in context when I said these things, why I said it the way I said it, and how, and that little gusto behind it. So I literally used to be like, no, you know what my billable hour is? You think I can sit here and ride with you for free? You feel like you can waste my time? You know how much my time would? Me must let you waste my time? Going crazy. Can't happen. Literally. That was one of the, and it may sound bad, but that was literally one of the more recent, I guess, light bulb moments for me when I was like, bro, time is really valuable, and people will respect you when you respect your time. And so when we talk about stewarding, I just want to bring to our attention certain things that we have within our possession, certain things of value to us that we need to be mindful of how we're stewarding these things. To go deeper, let me tell you where this really hit home for me. I remember this may have been 2 years now. I was getting frustrated with finances. I think I was trying to do something, make a major financial investment. I just couldn't see my way to do it. And I was like, I don't want to go to the bank. I just want to do this particular thing. And I said to myself, I'm a tither. I've always been a tither. I've never had an issue with tithing, and I've always tithed more than my 10%. I know persons views vary on that. I know that even believers vary in their views and their understanding of what you should tithe, what tithing looks like, and that's fine. But I tithe on principle, particularly Malachi 3 verse 10, I believe it is. I don't want to misquote, because I realize y'all really be paying attention and going back and looking at things, because we growing in the word. Yes, bring ye all the tithes into the storehouse, that they may be meat in the mine house. This is King James Version that I do not like to read. And prove me now herewith, saith the Lord of hosts, if I will not open up the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing that you shall not have room enough to receive. So yes, that is the principle that I tithe on, right? And so being that your girl is a tither, I was getting frustrated. And I had a real conversation with God. And I said, listen, this ain't making sense to me. You say, try you now, herewith. You know what I mean? That you will open up the windows of heaven and pour me out a blessing that I don't have room enough to receive. But I feel like I lack in. Like, why I don't have enough to do this particular thing. I'm like, I'm tithing my 10%. I'm tithing more than my 10%. What is going on? Literally, the Lord said to me, not because you tithe your 10% means that you don't have to steward your 90% well. I can run it again. Not because you tithe your 10% means that you should not steward your 90% well. I was a little bug at that because God had a point. I was like, oh. And really and truly, it calls me to do a proper review of how I was spending my 90% for real. That treat yourself spirit is beyond me heavy, like heavy. I treat myself for nothing. I just love that. I just love me. And when I'm ready, don't let me be stressed out like that over. Just go treat yourself. It's beyond me heavy. And not only that, I think the reality of it is I had just started working too. I spent all of my life in school and I never had a real job. And so this is my first time making money. And all of the things that I had deprived myself of prior, all of the things that I did not get to experience prior, a whole decade basically of my life when everybody else was experiencing it. The reality of it was, yeah, I wanted a piece of the pie too. And so this was new money. I didn't have to manage a whole lot of money before, to be honest. Because I didn't have it. I just didn't have it. I was always pinching pennies in a sense of I had just enough to get me by, especially when I was in law school, especially when I was either in Barbados or here. Not that, my mother wasn't providing to assist, but the reality of it is what I had to apportion to be able to last me for a particular time. Because when sis send me my money for the month, whatever you do with that's on you. Ain't no spinning the block and asking for more. So I really had to budget my money and do without. And once I started working, I was like, no, I ain't doing without no more. Why? Money round. I can find that when I need that. You know what I mean? And then I was getting paid every week. So it was like, yeah, you can survive for a week. You know what I mean? So that was my train of thought. And so at that moment when I was becoming so frustrated with the fact that I'm tithing, but at the same time, it's as if I don't know what's going on with my money. I don't know where my money going. I'm very upset. And I feel like Malachi 3 verse 10 is not evident in my life. And when God said to me, you're not stewarding the remainder well, but you have an expectation for certain things to be, presented to you, or for you to attain particular things, but you're not a proper manager. Why should I give you more, right? And in that same vein, y'all know I like words. Let's go and look at what steward means. Stewardship comes from the Greek word, I can't even spell this. It's pronounced this. I think it's oikonomia, and it could not be that. Oikonomia. Yeah, y'all can look that up. Or economy, which means management of the house or household in the New Testament. It means man's management of his whole life in response to God's love. I want to read the other. Yeah, I think I liked this reference, but let me just do it here as well. I think for the Hebrew word, so the same oikonomos was most often a slave to whom the master of the household had entrusted the management of his possessions. The Hebrew word ben beeth literally translates a son of the house. The term could mean son or steward, which would be a trusted slave set by the master over the household. And I want to continue on from this reference, and it says in Luke 16:1-2, it says, there was a rich man whose manager was accused of wasting his possessions. So he called him in and asked him, what is this I hear about you? Give an account of your management, because you cannot be manager any longer. This passage highlights the responsibility and accountability that a steward has in managing resources entrusted to them, right? In the Bible, there are several teachings about being a good steward of God's resources. One prominent passage that emphasizes the importance of stewardship is found in 1 Peter 4, verse 10, which reads, "Each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms." This verse encourages believers to use the gifts and resources given to them by God to serve others and glorify Him. And this basically ties in what I was saying before about this whole understanding that what we've been given has been given to us by God for the advancement and the fulfillment of our purpose and for the service of others, right? And when we look at what we've been given in light of our purpose and in light of us serving others and being diligent in our efforts to make sure that we are doing what was intended to be done with this gift, I think we would shift the way that we manage our lives, right? And as we see from the definitions that I've read, really and truly stewardship or steward really is just a manager. Your management, the way that you manage things, in this particular instance, the way that you manage yourself. And I have to be honest and say that I've not been a good manager of my life at all. Speaking just on finances, I've had to be more responsible in how I budget. I've really been wanting to be one of those budget girlies. It just ain't happening. I've purchased budget apps. I've downloaded different budget templates. I have tried the envelope format. I have tried so many different things, and it just doesn't work for me. I found the most efficient thing for me to do is literally just wire money to a particular account that I just don't touch, or send money to like a relative and tell them, listen, don't send me this money back. That's just where I at right now, and I will grow and I will get better. But right now, I just have to send money out of sight, out of mind, I can't access it. And then everything else I think works, and I have to do my priorities first. So that's just me. And then leave just enough money on my account to survive. So once that's gone, it's like, yeah, sis, that's on you, because you're messing around. You're treating yourself a little bit too much. You're spoiling yourself, which I think is good in moderation. But going back to the whole understanding of the fact that I've not been managing myself well, and not just in the area of finances either. I want to talk about generally time, and I want to focus specifically in this episode and talk about managing time, finances, and influence. But at the same time, I want us to get an understanding that this isn't even just, because again, here's things that I don't like. I don't like to over spiritualize things. And I don't like when we focus only on the spiritual aspect and not focus on the fact that in the natural, in our everyday life, that these are things that be incorporated. I don't think that the Bible is just a Sunday read or something that applies to how you want to show up to believers on a Sunday. I think that from my understanding in scripture has shown, has been a mirror to me in every aspect of my life. The way that I speak, the way that I handle others, the way that I serve, the way that I take care of myself, the way that I manage myself. And it is my aim that through this podcast, we see it that way, where the scriptures are being applied in our everyday life, right? And when we talk about managing right now, I want to talk about managing yourself. And I don't know if all of us take care of ourselves. I was watching a video on TikTok, and this lady was saying, I can't remember the exact context right now. I didn't even intend to include this in here in this episode, but as I was speaking just now, it came to my mind. She was saying she has taught herself to treat herself as she would treat her child. And she was specifically talking in that instance about what she eats. And she was saying, if I wouldn't allow my child to drink soda all the time. I wouldn't allow my child to eat these particular snacks. I wouldn't allow my child to eat at this particular time. And so she treats herself the way that she would treat her child. Because as a good parent, you want to ensure that whatever you're doing for your child, that it's being done well, that you're loving on them well, that you're taking care of them well in every aspect. And so she said she's now adopted that mindset to her. I'm not a parent, but I appreciated that, because I can almost guarantee that when it comes to me being a parent, there's certain things that my child would not be doing for their embetterment. Point blank, period. Like, I already know, yeah, you may not like this right now, but mommy looking out for you, and I want you to be your best self. And in doing so, you're going to have to be restricted from certain things. You're going to have to do things a particular way. And the reality of it is, that's the same mindset I should have for myself. And those of you that are parents, I think that you can attest to that is how you operate in certain ways. There's certain people you wouldn't have your children around. There's certain things you won't allow your child to eat. There are certain restrictions you would put on the access to things that your child has, because not because you just want to be a strict parent, but because you see the value in doing that, and you want to ensure that the life that you're creating and fostering for your child and what you're teaching them about how to take care of themselves and what's good for them and what's not good for them is important. And I believe that we don't do that for ourselves. And it's very, very, very important that we learn to manage our lives well and to steward well over what it is that we have, right? So as I mentioned, this whole aspect of time, I have been very challenged in how I spend my time. I have become an avid lover of TikTok. And I can't believe that I'm even confessing this publicly, because for a very long time, when TikTok first came out, especially during COVID, I was like, all these people doing is being on TikTok, talking about they dancing. Oh, like, y'all so childish. Y'all need to grow up. This doesn't make any sense. All of that. And then I came on TikTok probably, I want to say I joined TikTok a year, maybe 2 years now. I don't know if it's been that long. And when I tell you I love that app, here's why I love the app. Not because of the dancing or nothing. I literally use TikTok as a search engine now, before I use Google, because there's so much knowledge on TikTok. Like, you have professionals speaking on so many different areas. There's a lot of encouragement. There's a lot of Christian content. There's so much on TikTok, and I like the diversity in the diversity and the genuineness of the content on TikTok. That's what I appreciate most about it. And so I found value in it, right? And what I didn't realize until recent, especially, for those of us who have iPhones, and I'm sure Android has it as well, where you can monitor your screen time. And the other day, I just randomly was like, oh, let me check this. Because it said that my screen time was down. And I checked, and it was like, oh, you spent X amount of hours. I was like, I spent that much hours on this? And I was like, yo, nah. And I mirrored that with some things that I said I wanted to do this year. We are now in the month of August. August is about to be out of here. We just have September, October, November, December. Literally, wow, that's wild. September, October, November, December. We literally only have 4 months left in the year. Nah, that's wild. I didn't even realize that. Like, I mean, when you sit down and you literally put your 4 fingers up, that's crazy. Okay, we have 4 months left in the year. That makes this, what I'm saying now, it hit home even more. At the beginning of the year, I hosted a vision board brunch, and I told everybody, this is not just for arts and craft. Literally, you're going to write down what it is that you intend to fulfill this year, and you're going to put timestamps on them. And I said that because I believe that we often have fanciful ideas, and we just put it down, but there's no action plan towards what we intend to achieve. And so if it is that you're saying that you want to achieve your degree this year, of course, if your degree is a 2-year, 3-year program, whatever it may be, you're going to have to do something within this year. Either it's you apply, it's you get accepted, you start your first semester, whatever it is, you have to work towards attaining that particular thing. If you have a goal to purchase a home, you know that you need to save your down payment. If you're going to break that up, and I'm like, listen, make this realistic, break that up. I can save 10 or 15% towards my down payment by the end of this particular year. Here's how I can do that. In the first quarter of the year, I can save X, Y, and Z. The second quarter, I can do X, Y, and Z. I want to lose weight this year. How am I going to do that? No matter what they say, unless you can use a quick way of doing it, you're going to have to work towards that, and it's going to take time. Here's how I can do it in a healthy way. I can probably do X, Y, and Z for 3 months, try this for 3 months or whatever the case may be, and do it in dosage, or I wouldn't say dosage, but in stages, right? And I was just trying to explain to them, the attendees at the Vision Board Brunch, that we have to make sure that we put action plan behind our visions. It cannot just be something written down and left and stick up. Like, literally, I have something on this vision board. It's from 2023, but I have stuff on here that we achieve in this particular thing. And I have a timestamp on it, and the year is not done yet. Apparently I have 4 more months to get it done. But when I look back at this, it just reminds me of what I had in mind to do. Because some of these things are still applicable for this year. And even when I go back to some things that I'd written down, I see the applicability of it for this year as well. And I say to myself, Tonisa, these things can't just happen because you want them to happen. You have to work towards it. And when I look at some of the things that I have written down, I'm like, I didn't have enough time to do that. Or when I was supposed to do that, because, I'm trying to pacify myself the fact that, we were 6 months into the year at the time. And I'm like, well, you didn't do it because you had X, Y, and Z. But then when I look at my screen time on social media, it far exceeds what it should be. I don't care how comforting it is. I don't care how much knowledge on TikTok. There's no excuse for that, especially in comparison of how I could have taken that time to do X, Y, and Z. It just don't work. And like I said earlier on, time is very valuable. Even like I said, for my profession, that's a real life example of just how valuable it is. And that's dollars and cents. When we talk about in the grand scheme of what God has given us to do, and more importantly, the fact that I don't know when my time is up. None of us know when our time is done. My time, I talk about 4 months left in the year. My lifespan could end tomorrow. That's just a reality. I don't know. None of us know when our expiration date is. So we have to start treating time as the valuable resource that it is, as the gift that it is, and working towards fulfilling goals and doing what God has called us to do. Not just making it and it's weird because a lot of times I talk to people, right? And it's like, I'll get to that. Yeah, no, straight, I can do that. Or, yeah, no, I working toward that. God knows my heart. And it's just be like, babe, like, where you get that from? Where we get that concept of I have time? Where are you promised the time? And so to me, it's inconsiderate, and I think it's disingenuous to believe that you are able to control your time when we don't know what time looks like. And even if your lifespan goes to the next 30 years, like, let me use myself as an example. If my lifespan goes to another 30 years, what my 30 years has looked like thus far, I don't know what my other 30 is going to look like. I pray that I'll be good health and strength. I pray that I'll be in a sound mind. But even beyond that, let's say that there are things added to my life, a husband, children, businesses, ministry, that is going to take away from the time when I was, instructed to do particular things. And so I have to be a better conduit of what I've been given. And time is that thing for me and for you. And I just want us to, as we assess how we're stewarding our lives and managing and making sure that, we're fulfilling purpose in all that we do, time is really the first thing I believe that we really need to assess, how we're spending time and what you putting time into. That time that I'm on TikTok, I literally could have been finishing. There was this devotional book, Bible study book, that I had gotten with the Perry's tour. And I said, I really wanted to finish this. I wanted to challenge myself to finish this in 2 months. I wouldn't even talk about how far I get in this book. And those are the things that, again, I like TikTok because it's a de-stressor for me. But at the same time, if I say that I want to grow in my word, I want to know God differently, I want to fulfill particular things, this is more helpful to me than TikTok. It really is. And so how and where I spend my time and how you and I spend our time is very, very important. So when we talk about stewarding well, that's something that we really need to take into consideration. How am I spending my time? You ain't getting that back. 2024 is how much months? 7, 8, hold on. I don't like counting on camera, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So hold on. 6, 7, 8. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There you go. That's why I don't like, I might edit this out even. So 8, 9, so 8, duh, Tony, so you can just say that August is the 8th month. Wow. I'm recording this late, guys, so let's just chuck it up to that. So 8 months have since passed. You ain't getting that back. It don't matter how much hocus pocus you do, how much wishing and crying you do and pleading, it ain't coming back. That time then gone, it's spent, it expired. Okay? And so the reality of it is, and then what's kill me about us, then we just go try fulfill a whole vision board in 4 months. 2 months if you're serious. And then you mad with yourself. You end in the year depressed and what I do with my life and I should have done it. Yeah, because you playing around like you control time. Like you have time in your pocket and you could take it out and spend it however you feel. No, sweetie, it don't work like that. So that's one of the things I wanted to discuss, managing time, right? Stewarding well with our time. The next point I wanted to raise is stewarding finances. We touched on it just now, and I I'm not an expert on any of this, obviously. But I don't know whether, and some of us may be in a greater, some of us may be doing this better than others. And if you're good at budgeting and stuff like that and stewarding well with your money, please, please, please send your girl a message. Like, let me know. Let me study your ways or great one. And I think it's different for everybody, because I've had persons reach out to me and ask me about budgeting, and I tell them the way that I move and the way that I do certain things, it wouldn't work for you. And certain things, some other people don't work for me when it comes to finances. The reality of, I say that a lot, the reality of it is, here's why. Because my responsibilities may be a longer list than somebody else's responsibilities. Every single thing concerning my life, I have to take care of. I don't have a man to do it. I don't rely on my parents to do it and family members and friends to do it. So everything, if that's tissue paper, got to buy for my house, I have to buy that. There's water running out of my house, I got to get that. Gas, I got to fix my car, I got to do my hair, I got to do my nails, I got to buy my clothes, everything. If something pops up, 9 times out of 10, I'm the one that's going to have to deal with whatever that is. Of course, there are persons in my life I'm grateful for that I can call on, but generally the responsibility is mine. I'm on nobody else's priority or responsibility. My parents maybe, but even then, I think I'm 30 now, so mom, dying. She can do it. Mommy can do it, or daddy can do it, and if they're in the position to do it. But the reality of it is, I'm not number one on their priority list at this big age, So I have to bear that in mind when it comes to my finances, and I also have to bear that in mind when I think about how other persons are advancing financially, or how other persons are spending and stewarding their own money. And I learned that this year because I was becoming a bit frustrated in the fact of, bruh, you really could be doing more. And granted, I think that I'm doing well in how I'm saving, but I think, again, naturally I'm an overachiever. I feel like I gotta do a big thing, and I always make big goals for myself. It don't matter what it is; it's always going to be grandiose. And I've been trying to change that. So I think I'm doing well, but I could do better. There's always room for improvement. So I just wanted to put that caveat in there, that when we try to do particular things, don't monitor it don't assess it based on what somebody else is doing. You're the manager of your life. Nobody else knows what it takes to manage your life. Nobody else knows what your life looks like other than you. And so when you are setting out your action plan on how you're going to manage your life in every aspect, you need to make sure that you're doing it in light of what works for your life. Don't dumb it down to make yourself lousy, but at the same time, don't make it so grandiose where it's unrealistic, and then it makes you feel like you didn't do anything when you haven't achieved these particular goals. But stewarding finances is very important. Like I said, God said to me, yeah, you could tithe that 10%. You could do that. But if you don't store it over your 90, why would I give you more? I can give you just enough to make sure you're a person. But when we're talking about giving you abundance, you're not a good manager. And think about it realistically. You would trust anybody with your money who don't know how to manage money well? Could never. You'd never see me doing it. You just can't. And when you don't understand the value of money, and I think that is what we as, especially millennials, I have to be honest, I don't think us and the generations after us really have value for money. And I think the flip side of that is the dollar value really ain't the same. We working towards something, and it's like, boy, I working so hard towards this, and I expect this to be able to get me this, and in reality, it ain't getting you that. And it's like, so what I working so hard for? I might as well go to the Maldives, because I can't buy no house with this money, not today. And it might not be tomorrow either. So cheap as I go catch a sunset in Bali. You know what I mean? So I think there are a lot of different variables, but nevertheless, putting a proper system in place to show that you can manage your finances it's just important. Another little, it was such a, oh man, it's weird because I was eavesdropping, but I feel like that was a revelation for me. So I was standing in line to take a picture at Woman Evolve conference last year. And this girl was in the back of me ranting and raving about the people that she came with or whatever. And she was, across from us were the little shops that they had set up. And there was Joe Bolin, his store where he was selling some pieces, some clothing. And the girl behind me, she was telling her, it seemed to be her significant other, her boyfriend, that she really wanted to go and purchase something. And she was like, but I didn't budget for it. And I guess her boyfriend may have said something, because she's like, yeah, I know. I'm too old not to follow a budget. And I was like, wow. I was like, bro, of all the takeaways I got from the conference, which were many, from all the speakers on the stage and everything, as much as I was catching gap seed, for those of you not from the Bahamas, as much as I was eavesdropping in somebody else's business, I will never forget that. Every time I think about budgeting and sticking to my budget, for some reason that comes back to me. She literally said, I know I'm too old not to follow a budget. And that just that resonated with me, because again, I told y'all I was struggling with sticking to a budget because I had this mentality of nothing too good for me, and I always get that money back. Because I genuinely know that if I gotta hustle to get that money back, I will get that money back. I didn't tell y'all. Only thing I doing is nothing illegal. But if you see a girl gotta work, I will sell parties. I will do whatever I gotta do when I gotta get some money in my hand. You understand me? So in my mind, I could spend that because I can find a way to get that back. That's how I think. That's how I reason with everything I have going on. But the reality of it is, I say that a lot. But anyway, but the fact is, I still have to learn to follow a budget. It doesn't matter how much money I have. And when you listen to particular gurus, millionaires and billionaires and stuff like that, I've had the privilege of getting to meet and become close with a lot of persons that are of means. And I can tell you, one of the things that I admire about them, even when you hear them talk about spending money on lunch, they're like, nah, I ain't buying lunch 5 days a week. I'm like, bro, you would buy lunch 5 times a day and you can be all right. What are you talking about? But their whole thing is, nah, that ain't in the budget. I'm not spending money any kind of way because I have it. You know what that speaks to? Discipline. That's really what that speaks to me. It speaks to the fact that you're disciplined enough to know how to handle your money, and that you can be entrusted with managing more. And if I can manage my 5 and say, you know what, this is the 5 that you've allocated for this, and this is what it's going to be, I don't think that I would ever be better off. And I don't think that I would ever be in a position to properly attain and maintain wealth. I just won't. That's just a fact. Look at people who, there was a study, I think I saw it on TikTok, and they were talking about how a lot of persons, I think within the first year of winning the lottery, become bankrupt. Why? Because you were never taught money management skills. You never steward money well. You never had a budget. You never stuck to a budget. And now you're given a whole slew of money. And it's like, okay, let me give this to some unreasonable person. Let me give $1 million to a 12-year-old. Literally, we could be 30 years, 40 years, but if you're disciplined and your stewardship mentality when it comes to finances is only like a 5-year-old, yeah, ain't nothing happening. And you have to be self-aware enough to realize that. And that treat myself spirit has taught me that I'm not as mature. I'm not 30 in my stewardship and my understanding of stewardship in my finances. That's me being transparent. That's me being real. I ain't 12. I don't even think I'm 20. But I think that I need to up it up a little bit more because of what I'm seeking towards and what I believe that God will entrust me with in the future. I don't want to wait until I get it, or wait until I'm close to it or closer to it to figure it out. And we need to be better stewards with how we manage our finances. And so I also wanted to, even though this parable is not secluded to just finances, but I always equate it to being with reference to the gifts that God has given us. I see the value in it, and I want to read it. It is the parable of the talents, found in Matthew 25, 14 through 30, and I'm going to read it. It reads, "For it will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted to them his property. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1, to each according to his ability." I will read that part again. "To each according to his ability. Then he went away. He who had received the 5 talents went at once and traded with them." I equate that to investing. "And he made 5 talents more. So also he who had the 2 talents made 2 talents more. But he who had received the 1 talent went and dug in the ground and hid his master's money. Now after a long time, the master of those servants came and settled accounts with them. And he who had received the 5 talents came forward, bringing 5 talents more, saying, 'Master, you delivered to me 5 talents. Here, I have made 5 talents more.' His master said to him, 'Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. And he also, who had the 2 talents, came forward saying, Master, you delivered to me 2 talents. Here I have made 2 talents more. His master yet again said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over little. You have been faithful over little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. He also, who had received the 1 talent, came forward saying, Master, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you did not sow and gathering where you scattered no seed. So I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Here, you have what is yours. But his master answered him, You wicked and slothful. You know, did somebody tell you slothful, bro? You wicked and slothful. You know what slothful mean? You lousy. You big and lousy. You know, someone tell you just big and lousy? Golly. Anyway, you wicked and slothful servant. You knew that I reap where I have not sown and gather where I scattered no seed. Then you ought to have invested my money with the bankers, and at my coming I should have received what was my own with interest. So take the talent from him and give it to him who has the 10 talents, the one who invested, the one who managed, the one who stewarded well. And cast the worthless servant into the outer darkness. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. And this is I just really like this parable, and so many different revelations I get from this. But as we talk about stewarding finances well, this is definitely one of the, not just finances, but stewarding our lives well. This is definitely a parable that stands out to me. And there is immeasurable value, honestly, in us seeing the value of money. I think that for me, COVID-19 showed me that and I want to be careful how I say this, because certain persons are in a position where they honestly cannot save money. Some people make just enough to survive, not enough to save. That's just the reality of today's environment and economy, right? But going back to what I had said about having to, one, be self-aware of the fact that I've not been managing my finances to the best of my ability. And 2, based on that self-awareness, now trying to devise an action plan to get me to a better point. I know that I sadly don't have the discipline to say, okay, the money's on my account, I'm not going to touch this. It depends. Because even when certain things come up, like I said to you, there are things that comes up in my life every month that I don't budget for. Even with the miscellaneous, it's just weird. If you own a car, you know, cars is just, as soon as they hear you, as soon as a big chunk of money come your way, their car's like, oh, I'm feeling good. I need to be attended to. So that in and of itself is a thing to contend with at times. But I just use that as the fact that there are things that come up, right? And so I would automatically say, I can just spend it because I can get the money back. Instead of saying, no, deal with that next month, or a portion in particular from this month, and then put the other month. You know what I mean? Thinking about it that way, because my mind is always, the money there, use it, you can get it back. That is literally my train of thought. I will get it back. I have that spirit on me bad, that mindset on me bad, that is crippling, that I will always get my money back. COVID-19 is what I was using that analogy prior about saving to say, taught me that you're not always guaranteed that. A lot of persons lost their jobs. A lot of persons did not know where their next paycheck was coming from. At that point, I wasn't even working. But your girl was hustling. I was selling parties and things. I told you, I thought I was joking. I was making the best pizza parties you would ever find in Nassau. Because nobody sells pizza parties. But my pizza parties taste good for true. I was selling carrot juice and ginger lemonade. Your girl is hustling, you know. Only thing I wasn't on the corner was selling peanuts. But if I got to do that, I could do that. But anyway, yeah. That came to my mind when I was thinking about how we really have to value money to the place where we say, you know what, it's necessary. It's necessary for us to survive, not for the place of you loving money and just wanting or having a desire to attain wealth, but it's necessary. It's necessary for you to manage your life well. There's certain things that there are most things that you cannot get access to without finances. And even those of us who have been given the gift to attain wealth, and for those of us that were born in that wealth, those of you that have trust funds, kudos to you. But even that comes with the responsibility of stewarding well too, and not looking at going back to what I think it was in First Peter, where it made reference to the fact that these gifts were given to us to serve others. That's a part of stewarding well too. Being mindful of how you use your time, your talents, your finances, your influence for the betterment of others. And a lot of times we become self-centered in our stewarding. How am I going to manage this to the best of my abilities to work for me, as opposed to saying, okay, how can I be a proper conduit of my time and my finances so that other persons can benefit from my stewardship as well. And that's necessary. When we go back to, if you listen to the second and third episodes, you have an understanding of what we're called to, especially the second episode on purpose, and how we're not here for our own enjoyment. We're not here for our own gratification and growth, but we're all called to a kingdom purpose. And if we're still here, there are things for us to do in accordance with that. And time is one aspect, but you can need money to get things done as well. I always tell persons, I can't wait until I'm in the position to be able to do for the kingdom. There are persons that are around me that have kingdom ideas. I myself have kingdom ideas that I believe will draw many to God, or be an avenue to which that can happen. Persons who have conferences, persons who have book ideas, persons who have all sorts of stuff, and you need money to do it. And I can't wait until I'm in the position to be able to do that. And in order for me to get there, in order for me to be able to become that person, I need to start stewarding now. Who can trust me with anything? And I treat myself, spirit is beyond me. Oh, no. So as we work on managing our lives, let us focus on that aspect as well. And the last portion or category that I wanted to discuss is stewarding influence well. Like, that is such a big and underrated thing that I don't believe that we really pay attention to. And not everybody has it. Nah, I take that back. I was about to say not everybody has influence, because I'm thinking on the scale of those who have platforms have greater influence, but all of us have influence. You have influence on your coworkers, you have influence on your friends, you have influence on your children, you have influence on your peers. We all have a level of influence based on proximity and relationship. That's automatic. You can influence your friends right now to plan a whole trip to go to the Amalfi Coast next year, be deep in the south of France, having a dandy, just because you thought of the idea, you find a way to make it work. You have an influence on their decisions. You have an influence on how they're going to spend their money. You have an influence on how they're going to spend their summer, quote unquote, their time next year, based on your own, just the proximity, the relationship that you have with them. Your children, those of you that are parents, automatically you have influence over them because of the parental relationship that you have. Those of us that have platforms like this, I now understand that I have a greater level of influence on how I can impact the kingdom through the lives of others. And with that understanding of influence, there are certain things that are being developed in me. The need to have greater integrity in my private life, the way that I present myself publicly as well. I have to be very, very mindful of how I steward my influence, because I think we all know of persons who were on platforms or even just in private lives where they did something, or you found out about something, and it's almost as like, I can't, they lose credibility with you because of what they do or what you heard that they did. Or you catch them doing something, or you see them in a bad light, or they spoke to someone, they cursed somebody out, or they were disingenuous in handling money, or whatever it may be, you know what I mean? And it really dampens or diminishes the influence they now have on you, because like I said, they've lost credibility. And as believers, most importantly, we have godly influence, kingdom influence. And that's not something to be taken lightly. And I don't think that we manage it well all the time. I say that because there are a lot of us that are, and this is the evangelical aspect of it, this portion, but that's not the only part that I want to highlight. But there are a lot of us that have friends and family members that we don't even try to have a conversation with them to say, you know what, how do you know Christ? Do you know Christ at all? And I know, because I'm one of those people. I am starting to drift away from that, because even just now with one of my coworkers, just had a random conversation. I was like, so hey, do you believe in God? No. I don't think I asked her if she believed in God. I had asked her what church she attend. That's how I usually start the conversation. What church do you attend? To figure where you at in faith. If you say that you don't attend church, I ask why. I'll ask you, do you see the importance in attending church? What are your views on church? Why don't you attend church? Why do you attend that particular church? To engage in a conversation about faith, right? And as a result of that, she had said to me, "No, I believe in God." I was like, "Yeah, no, that's basics. Yeah, that's faith 0.1. Nothing spectacular. Yippee! I'm glad that you do, but yeah, that's not enough." Let's talk about fostering a relationship. Let's talk about becoming saved. Let's talk about that. Like, what does that mean to you? Like, how does that look? And to me, I wouldn't say that I had such great influence, but I just realized that I'm in a position where I have the ability to reach this person because of our proximity. I have an influence on how, even when it comes to my work ethic, that's something that God has challenged me on as well, how I show up in my workspace. I don't believe that I should go to work at 9 o'clock. I'm just being honest. I don't think so. At 9:30, 9:45, pushing it. But 9:30, 9:20, I feel like that's a good time for me to go to work. Just because 9 o'clock on the road traffic in Nassau, it's just be a lot. And I just feel like I will stay back usually in any event. So that's just me. And I was doing that. And God personally challenged me and said to me that you're not walking in integrity in how you show up at work. And I was like, but I'm doing X, Y, and Z. Again, no, but it doesn't look good. And I didn't care about how it looked, to be honest, because I know myself. I'm like, nah, but I put in good quality work, so I don't care how it looks. It's like, nah, you're not just representing you. You're not. And how you operate impacts your influence. It impacts how you're viewed. And I was like, you're right. You're right. And even the way that I handle myself now at work, even when it's not a good day, even when I don't like particular people, even when I don't like what I'm doing, even when the situation is frustrating, I am now challenged to be mindful in how I handle it because of what I deem to be my influence, what I deem to be my reputation, and understanding that as a believer, not just my reputation on the line. Because I've already started the conversation. I've already started out and presented myself as a believer. And I'm already now working with someone that's not strong in the faith. And I can win them over in how I act, not just in throwing scriptures at them, but just generally, naturally being loving. And I, as much as they may not come to know Christ in that moment, just because of, in the time of us working together, because of how I act or respond to them, I can also probably give them, or I would say further, what's the word I'm looking for? Further cause, I can't find the words, so I'll just explain. Further cause them to not see the value in being a Christian if I also treated them unkind as well. Like, this person is a believer, all y'all the same. They could already have a bad experience with Christians, who knows? And I come in there and I'm just adding to the number of Christians that don't, that say they're good, say they, have integrity, say they're kind, and they just the worst people ever. And I challenge us with that as well. Challenge us with our integrity, stewarding our influence in the different spaces where we show up. In your family, you may not always get along, but how do you steward who you are to your family members and what you believe and your mindset, and how do you influence the room? How do you influence the relationship? All of that. What's your impact on others? And I think that we would have to look at it in our personal life, in our professional life, in our spiritual life. How do you influence others? That's something to pause and really think about in my personal relationships, in my workspaces, in social media, on my platforms. How am I influencing others for the embetterment of the kingdom, or for the advancement of the kingdom even? So when we talk about it, and here's one of the things that stood out to me as I was reviewing, just looking at biblical references for good influence. One of the things that I loved most about Paul, right? And it's like a current theme. Is it current? Concurrent theme for Paul. Paul would definitely go down as one of the persons who really influenced the Christian communities in the Bible. In his writings, what he said and how he, given them wise counsel, advice, and how they should manage themselves and how they should conduct themselves. Like, he had great influence on how the body of Christ moved, how they grew, how they handled themselves, the churches and everything, like just giving them wise, sound counsel, and being a good steward of that influence as well. Like, making sure that he practiced what he preached. So I believe that that is definitely a great example of how you can steward your influence. And on the flip side, I think it was the king Ahab, was it Ahab and Jezebel. Their reign in Israel led many people away from God. They were promoting idol worship and injustice, and their negative influence had disastrous consequences for Israel's spiritual and moral health. And you can read 1 Kings 21, where it says, generally, King Ahab and Jezebel's actions and policies led to significant moral and spiritual decline in Israel, illustrating how harmful influence can negatively impact an entire nation. And that's one of the things that I believe we don't pay attention to, the magnitude of our influence, the magnitude of the importance of stewarding well. And so all of those things we need to take into great consideration when we assess how are we managing our lives, how are we managing our time, how we're managing our finances, how we're managing our influence, because we're called to manage. Going back to, I believe it was 1 Peter 4:10. Each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. And there was another scripture that I came across as well, that to me really highlighted the fact that we were called to be good stewards, and not just over tangible things, but just over the way that we carried ourselves in our lives in general. I'll probably add it in to the bottom here when I'm editing if I can't find it. And even just going back to the general principle of you sow what you reap. A lot of times we tend to think that we could just do anything. Like I said, I could just put in that 10%, but somehow, like, even if we just equate that to $10, like I could put that $10 in the ground and think that I'm gonna reap a harvest of abundance in our farm. You only manage your 10%. You manage your 10% by saying, you know what, I'm going to allocate this 10% for tithes. But at the same time, you'll manage the 90. So at the very least, God can give me back that 10 and say, okay, I can make sure your rent paid. I can make sure you have gas and food to eat. But don't look for nothing extra to me, because you're making sense. You're doing what you're supposed to do. And that's just a fact. That's just a fact. And I believe that a lot of it is not being self-aware. Really and truly, not the mere fact that we lack the desire to do so. It's lacking the self-awareness to even be mindful of the fact that I'm not managing myself well, and then also being proactive enough to say, you know what, I'm not going to waste my time. I'm not going to spend money frivolously, and here's how I'm going to ensure that I don't do these things. Like it have to move from just mouth service to actively making sure that you are doing better in how you manage. And like I said, go back to that same train of thought that really is the marker for me at times when I'm like, what would I do? I literally go back to, if I was a parent and I was my child, using it, figuratively, how would I guide myself? What would I allow myself to do? And when I would not allow, if there are instances when I wouldn't allow myself to do a particular thing, then I wouldn't do it. Or how would I'd ask myself, how do I think this should be handled? What in my mind is a proper way to handle this particular thing? And so we just have to be very, very conscious of how we manage our lives. Like this is our lives, you know what I mean? And a lot of us tend to, and you could always, nothing I hate more than people on social media or people anywhere. You ever talk to someone and their life is all over the place? Or especially people who are older. You ever listen to an older person talk so passionately about the way their life turned out, and none of it is their fault? None of it. Like, if Sully May didn't, if so-and-so didn't do X, Y, and Z, and that's because John over them, they treat me bad, they thief my money, and my mommy wasn't good to me, my mommy. It's never their responsibility. It's never their responsibility. And I don't want myself or any one of us or anybody I'm connected to have that mentality that their life just happened to them and they had no control over it. That's nonsense. There's no basis for that. There's so many persons that we can look to, and we know even in our personal lives or persons online that we can research or have an understanding and listen to their testimonies that they were dealt a bad set of cards and they made the most of what they had. And you would never know that those persons you talking to, when you look at their assets, when you look at their accolades and all that they've accomplished in the space of their life, that this is where they started. You are in control of what happens to you, literally. And I believe that Scripture says that we've all been given talents. We've been given so many different resources, so many different things that will aid in us becoming who God has called us to be. And definitely us lacking doesn't doesn't align with what God would have for us, because we can't do anything out of the state of lack. But we have to be very proactive in ensuring that what needs to be done is done. So that's on you. You are your responsibility. Not you and your husband responsibility, you and your children responsibility, you and your manager responsibility. You are your responsibility, and whatever happens to your life is because of you. So at this point, just be a better manager. If you need to have little weekly meetings with yourself, all right, sis. And here's something I started and I didn't follow through. I started having quarterly meetings with me. And when I say started having quarterly meetings with me, I had a 1 meeting in 1 quarter. My God. So I coming to y'all from having it all together. I'm coming to y'all being very transparent, letting y'all know you and I, we got to do better with our lives. I had me a good old quarterly meeting in March. I look at my money. I look at what I had going on. And March is a weird time too, because like I said, I made some life changes. And I was, okay, this is what we're going to do. And I think I was doing fairly well. But if you just living your life day to day and you ain't never sitting down and check your records, that's like you having a business. You have some accountants and you don't ever once open up your book to make sure they're doing right. Ask Steve Harvey. They catch him on taxes because he entrusted his business to some accountants, and he could have sworn that they were doing what they were supposed to do, never paying the man taxes. Come to find out, you're owing millions in taxes. You in big trouble. You understand? So you have to be the one to say, you know what? Just get this one concept. My life is my responsibility. With the help of God, you can achieve so many different things. You know what I mean? God is well able to do above and abundantly all that we can ever ask or think. But at the same time, God ain't just snappy fingers. Like, God is not an emotional God. All through scripture, you can see that God is a God of principle. Not because you cry and you plead, things can happen. Literally, he is a God of principle, and nobody is going to entrust anything good with someone who can't manage it and do well with it. It doesn't make any sense. He's not going to waste his resources. Twice, I give you what you need. I don't want to ramble, but that's another thing. That's another aspect that gets to me a lot. I hate to hear people complain about wanting more for themselves, and they have the power in their hands to change their lives. I hate to hear people talking about they wish they had a higher paying job and never applying for another job. I hate to hear people complaining about their job and never even looking for a better job. I can't stand it, because in my mind, it's like, bro, it's in your hands. Do you really want more for yourself, or you just want to talk about having more and doing more? I tell people all the time, we don't know what our life look like. Literally, God can say to you, here's what I have already created for you. Literally, this is your life. Just do this and do this. Do you know that if you leave that job, or if you went through this store, if you just trusted me enough to do this particular thing, start this business, that this is what I had waiting for you? Do you know if you had spent more time in doing this as opposed to wasting time doing this, this is what would have been your life? Like, and then you sitting down complaining about not having enough, no, nobody's gonna hand you anything. It takes work, consistency, and discipline, and proper management for us to achieve whatever it is that we seeking to achieve. And those desires that we have to go in particular areas and to do particular things are God-given desires. I say that to people all the time. Those ideas that you have and that inkling that you have didn't come from you. You're not smart. It aligns 9 times out of 10 with what it is that God has called you to. Obviously, you need to pray about it. To ask God, okay, I don't think that I'm doing this right. Give me a bit more self-awareness. Show me the errors in my ways. Show me how I can improve and how I'm handling my finances, my time, my influence, my health, all of that. Make it a matter of prayer and be proactive and intentional in making sure that you steward your life and manage yourself well. Okay? I could do that now. I can't be. I don't be in 2025 listening to y'all comment money or being at people. Oh my God, I don't think y'all understand. Y'all don't hate being around complainers. Complain about their life 24/7 and you don't do nothing about it. I'm around here. I can't sympathize with you with that, man. I ain't got that grace on me for that. I ain't the gift. I ain't got the gift to sit down and listen to you babble about wanting more for yourself and not doing anything. That just ain't gonna happen. So yeah, we're not going to be those type of people anymore. We're not. We're going to save our money. We're going to steward our money well. We're going to be mindful with our time. We're going to be mindful of how we spend our gifts that God has given us and make sure that we use them. God didn't give you those gifts just to sit in your back pocket. Nah, it was all supposed to be towards the fulfillment of something. Okay? So let's try to figure out what those things are. Okay? All right. So that's all I have for today. Per usual, I don't want to just leave. I don't just want to talk. I just also want us to pray. So bow your head and close your eyes. Heavenly Father, Lord Jesus, we thank you for this moment, God. Thank you for just allowing me to be used by you for your glory and for your honor. I pray that you would help myself and those that are listening to be better steward of our lives, Father God, to be better steward of what it is that you've entrusted to us for your glory, for your honor, for your kingdom. I pray that we would be mindful of the way that we spend our time, the way that we use our gifts and talents, the way that we use our finances, and the way that we steward and manage our influence. I pray that you would allow us to become more self-aware, to be vigilant and observant in how we handle our lives, to the point where we would see the need for correction and that we would make the necessary adjustments. I pray that you would bring people into our lives that would be mirrors to what it is that we do correctly or incorrectly for the betterment of our lives. I pray that we would be proactive and disciplined and consistent enough to see ourselves become better versions of ourselves for your glory and for your honor. I pray that we won't allow ourselves to just have a burst of excitement towards being better persons or the need or desire to become better, but that we would have an ongoing desire to truly be better for you and for your glory. I pray that you would allow us to not lean on our own understanding and how to get to that point, but to trust you to help us to get there, to seek your wisdom, to seek your word, to seek your guidance on how we can become better stewards of the lives that you've entrusted to us. So I thank you for this by faith. I thank you for this platform. I thank you for just allowing me the opportunity to be into the ears and homes and hearts of these people. I pray that you would continue to cover them and strengthen them, Father God, wherever it is that they lack. I pray that you would just provide for them. For those that are in a weird space, God, whether it be mentally, spiritually, whatever it may be, I pray that they would seek your wisdom, that they would seek you, Father God, and they would trust you to be whatever it is that they need. I thank you now by faith for meeting our needs. I thank you by faith for being our restorer. Thank you by faith for being our healer, Father. And I give you all the glory, all the honor, all the praise. In Jesus' holy and precious name I pray. Amen. Smooches!